Hello and welcome to my channel Close to the Edge, where I talk about all things prog rock, classic rock, heavy rock, and maybe even a stick of rock. Stick around, you never know. Today I have a very special guest from Canada, Cody Brockway from Brockway's Vinyl Bites. How are you, Cody?
I'm doing really good on the heels of two awesome Metallica concerts right here and up the street pretty much in Toronto, Ontario. And what better thing to do on an afternoon like this is come talk about Rush, the
Rush.
Ontario Heroes, right?
Exactly. And I've brought on Cody tonight. We're going to talk about Rush's last six studio albums from 1991 to 2012. And we're going to rank them. And I haven't a clue what Cody's going to rank, and he hasn't a clue about mine. We haven't a clue. We haven't gone
Nope,
back and forth, anything like that. So we don't know.
no previous discussion.
No previous discussion. And before we get into it, I just want to say Cody has a brilliant channel on YouTube called Brockway's Vinyl Bites. I'm going to leave the link in the description below.
Thank you.
So my subscribers go over and check his channel out and subscribe to him and like his channels because we all do this for a little bit of fun.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, and that's what we do. And Cody has a brilliant channel over there, and his fiance has a brilliant channel over there, Spinning Prog as well, Tara
That's right.
O'Reilly, who has been on my channel, and I've been on her channel. But anyway, Cody, we're going to talk about the great Canadian band Rush, whose first album was 1974.
Yeah.
Right? But we're talking about their latter day stuff, the last six albums. And they had six albums, as I said, between 1991 and 2012, and that was their last album.
Yeah.
And Cody, your number six. I'm gonna kick you out. What is your number six?
Well, so my number six is kind of in the middle of this period, where we're going from 1991 to 2012. 1991 is where they really sort of started to get away from the keyboard sound of the 80s and started to, all the stuff that was going on at the time. Grunge was a big thing, metal was happening, and so that's when they started to they didn't fully get rid of the keyboards at that point, but they had started to really become lenient on the guitar.
Yeah, they did, yeah.
And of course, they brought out Roll the Bones and all the albums we're about to talk about today. This album, and I just did it in order of what I reach for the most of these albums to listen to. So, I mean, I think they're all great. I think they all have really defining and awesome qualities about them. But, I have my preferred ones, and, for whatever reason, which we'll talk about now. And so the one of these six albums from 91 to 2012, number six, the kind of one that I reach for the least is Vapor Trails.
Okay.
There's still some really great songs on here, like Ghost Rider, Nocturne, One Little Victory is probably my favorite song on here. Of course, you got Freeze, Part 4 of Fear. But this was really a dark time for the band. Obviously,
it was a dark time, yeah.
A lot of stuff had happened to Neil Peart, and his head was just obviously on his own business with all the negative stuff that was going on. And so this is just, for some reason, even when I about a year or two ago on my channel, I did a Rush ranking spin the wheel thing, and this one ranked pretty low for me.
Okay.
But like all albums of Rush, it still has its points, and so those four songs I mentioned are probably my favorites of the song or of the album, but it's not really one that I continue to go back to.
Okay. Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
That album you have there, is that the remix version?
This is the remix version. I don't have the original version because it came in the studio albums box set.
Okay, yeah.
And they only included the remixed one because everyone hated the original mix.
Okay, we'll get to that later.
Yeah,
so that's your number six, Vapor Trails.
I'm not commenting on the mix itself. I'm just talking about.
Yeah, I know I know you're not commenting on the mix, yeah, but it's just we will talk about that though. But that album was released in 2002.
Yeah,
2002. Yeah. Thanks for that, Cody. Right, my number six is from 1991. It's Roll the Bones.
Oh, okay, there you go.
Okay, so I bought all these albums when they came out. This is this actual CD I bought because I was getting out of LPs in the late 80s and I was fully into CDs. So I bought this CD. And when I heard it first, I thought, this is interesting. Very interesting. And when I heard the track, the track "Roll the Bones."
Yeah, yeah.
You
The
know,
rap.
different. It was different than the previous album. And the more I listened to the album, to be honest with you, I'm talking about at the time in 1991, the album disappointed me.
Mm,
It was a disappointing album because it came after Presto.
yeah, which is a very good one.
Yeah, which was probably one of the high points of their recent albums. And this kind of just disappointed me. But there is one track I love on this. It's my favorite track on the album. It's Ghost of a Chance. It's a
Yeah,
nice melodic track, but I think the lyrics on it, getting the lyrics on all their albums, I think majority of the album are fantastic because he's a brilliant poet.
agree.
He was a brilliant poet. And I think Geddy you sing the lyrics as if he wrote them, which I always found interesting. Because usually in a band, it is the person who sings them writes the lyrics. Usually, not all the time,
But
but
more
usually,
often than not.
more often than not. And if they're obviously going to be writing about things that they know about and sing from the heart. But I remember Neil Peart in an interview said that he loves the way Geddy sings them because as if he wrote them.
Yeah.
But anyway, I would, if I was ranking that nowadays, if I was ranking that album in the sense of a number out of 10, I wouldn't give this, I'd give it a 6. It's not a bad album, but it's not a good album either.
And that's the hard thing with Rush is that even if it's your least favorite album, there's still at least 2 or 3 tracks on it that
Oh
are
yeah, there's 2 or 3 or 4 tracks on this I really like, but I just think there's a lot of weak tracks.
yeah, fair enough.
Anyway, that's 1991. Roll the Bones.
Well, now we're going to go ahead to 1996. I already gave it away what it is. Number 5 for me, as we count down to what number 1 is Test for Echo.
Test for Echo.
This is again, it's a good one, but like there's only a couple of songs really on this that would make a playlist if I was to put it on. If I was to take any tracks from a Rush album, I'd probably only put 2 or 3 cuts from this. Dog Ears is a good one. Resist is good. Driven is an awesome track. But this is just one that I don't reach for that much. I came back and visited it to do the ranking on my channel about a year ago, and I haven't played it that much from then until now. And but it's still a fine album. Of course, it's produced by Peter Collins and Rush, who is in charge of. I think he produced most of their records during this time. And this, they had really shed the keyboard thing, and they're really back with the heavy guitar. The production is excellent, but it's just it's a good album, but it's not a top favorite for me.
No, okay.
But it's got its moments.
Okay. Test for Echo. Number 5. That's a good one, Cody.
It's got its moments. Like, it's got great stuff on it, like they all do, right? But for the most part, it's not one of my. It's kind of like Vapor Trails in the sense that I don't reach for that one as much as even the other 4 on this list.
Okay. My number 5 is exactly the same as yours.
Oh, there you go.
Test for Echo. And as I said, I bought these when they came out. So when I heard this, when it came out, again, I was disappointed with it because I was awaiting these Rush albums. I knew they were coming out. I actually believe I remember the day I bought it and I rushed home to listen to it. I bought this, the very CD I bought.
Rushing for Rush.
Yeah, Rushing for Rush. And I played it and I was kind of left. And I remember, no, there was something missing. And you know what the thing I found too about in this CD era of music? Sometimes they were too long.
Yeah.
Because I think if this and all these, a lot of them, if they were brought out and there was no such thing as CDs, just LPs.
Yeah.
I think they would have left 3 or 4, probably 4 tracks off, and would have probably made the album tighter.
Yeah, less is more, right?
Yeah, a lot of filler, you see, because of CDs, and they wanted to make the album 50 and 60 minutes long. But I always think a single album should be max 40, 44 minutes long.
Yeah.
And, you know, but still, though, there's some good tracks on this, like, you know what I mean? So, but still, but the production on this was excellent. Absolutely excellent, Cody.
It is a great sounding album. You crank it up in your car, it sounds awesome.
Yeah, it's good. I blasted away there. And I have listened to these in the last few weeks because I haven't listened to them in a while. I have to be honest with you. And I would still give that album though a 7 out of 10. Like that's like they don't have a bad album really, do they?
No, they don't.
When you boil it down to it, they don't really have an album that's a love beach, if you know what I mean. You know that kind of
Love Beach makes this look like an absolute 10 out of 10 masterpiece.
10 out of 10 masterpiece. But I'm saying, you know the way some bands have these stinkers, and I mean, they're so bad you can't listen to them.
Yeah, Rush never did that for me.
Like Gentle Giant, A Giant for a Day, which is an absolute horrendous album, you know. But Rush didn't have any of that. They were, yes, they had their highs and they had their lows, but they never went too low.
And I find that their lows were still, if Rush had a low, it was just because of, like, those dudes were always experimenting with their sound. Always. That's why every record sounds so different, especially in this period. This is a really, really experimental time for the band, this 90s and 2000s.
Yeah, they were changing their sound. And of course, the modern era, you must remember this is the 90s for this one.
Yeah.
Music has changed. It's not like they're doing moving pictures now in the early 80s or Hemispheres in the late 70s. Exactly. You know, it's a different era, but still not a bad album.
Good effort.
Yeah, good effort.
They're all good efforts, and that's one of the things I love is that Rush never put out a bad record. They don't have a Love Beach in the catalog. You can look at the catalog and go, okay, some of these are like lower down on my favorites list, but you know, then like these are the ones that I listen to the most. That sort of thing.
Oh yeah,
right?
They don't have ones that are absolutely horrendous.
And I love that we're focusing in on this period of the 90s and 2000s because it's good to represent these.
It is. It's a period that a lot of you see a lot of videos on YouTube. They don't talk much about these albums.
Yeah,
it's always your Farewell to the Kings, Hemispheres, Moving Pictures, Signals, Permanent Waves, 2112, Grace Under Pressure, all that kind. You know, all that Rush. But we're talking about a different, same band, obviously, but a different era of Rush. So, what's your number 4, Cody?
My number 4 is this is a really good album, actually. This Far Cry, Working Them Angels. Of course, the album is Snakes and Arrows.
Snakes and Arrows. Yes,
now
I saw him on that tour.
Aside from like what this album does not have in common with the last 2 albums is that this has some of my all-time favorite Rush songs on it. Working Them Angels is one of my top. It's got to be a top 20 Rush song for me. It's very, very good. The Main Monkey Business.
Oh, that's brilliant. That's an instrumental, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
That's to me that is an incredible track. It's real proggy.
Totally, and Far Cry. You know, I mean, they got Nick Raskulinecz on production. You know, that guy also produced Korn, Rush, a bunch of other bands. The sound is awesome. I wish I had been a bit older, so then I could have gone to go see them.
I saw him on that tour twice.
Where was that?
I saw him in Newcastle in the United Kingdom, and we went, myself and Kevin and his brother Billy, we went over to see him in Newcastle, and we went down to Sheffield, which is about 100 miles further on down, and we saw him the following night. Nice. The first night we saw him in Newcastle, they were good to very good, but they had sound issues, right? And we knew they had sound issues. You know when you go to a gig and you know there's something not right?
Yeah.
But the next night in Sheffield, and the crowd were better in Sheffield. And it was in a big, huge place. It must have been at least 10 to 14,000 there. Wow. Packed out. I was actually 1, 2, 5 from the front.
That's fantastic. That's really cool,
And oh
actually.
no, they were actually amazing. Landon. They were just incredible.
I wish I could have seen Rush live, but of course,
You're, you're
I've
too young.
I've missed my chance by about 13 years.
Yeah, of course. I wish I could have seen Led Zeppelin back in the day, or Purple, or yes, back in the day, but I was too young.
Have you seen Deep Purple recently?
No, I don't like Deep Purple at all now.
Oh, because I saw them play with
I know you
Yes.
saw him with Tara. Yeah, I just don't. I just can't get into the latter stage Purple. I'm
Fair
a
enough.
diehard '70s Deep Purple man.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah.
But that's a great pick, Cody.
Yeah. I
Snakes
mean,
and Arrows.
it's a very consistent album. It's very consistent. So it's kind of like you put it on and you enjoy it all the way through. You know what I mean? It's just one of those records, and that's why it has the songs on it that I find are really truly some of my favorites. That's what kind of puts it sort of head and shoulders above the other two. Like because these two are great. Um, these two are great. Test for Echo and Vapor Trails.
So what
But
would you give that out? What would you give that out of 10 now if you were giving honest ranking?
I'd say 7 or 8.
Okay, okay, that's good.
I'd say 7 or 8. I haven't been ranking them. Sorry, I'll rank the last. The
No,
last
whatever. Just a question. Yeah, yeah.
one.
But anyway, that's brilliant, Cody. Thanks for
Yeah,
that, Cody. My number 4, and this is the Vapor Trails.
yeah. There
But
you go.
again, I said I bought it when it came out. This is the original one, and I always found the sound was a bit muffled.
Yeah,
You know, it was a different kind of sound. But actually, when it came out, I loved the track "One Little Victory."
yeah. It is. That's a banger.
And when they played that on the Snakes and Arrows tour, they actually closed with that track because they came out for an encore with 3 tracks, and that was the last one. They actually blew the place up with it.
Yeah, that's
You
my
know what I
favorite
mean?
song on the album.
Yeah, it is my favorite track on the album as well. There's one or two other tracks on it that are not too bad, but I'd give this another 7 out of 10.
Yeah,
You know, it wouldn't be. It'd probably be on a par with the last one, Test for Echo. You get me? They're on a
yeah,
par. Would you agree? They're on a par.
yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. They're on the sort
And
of same wavelength.
yeah, as you said earlier on, like Neil Peart was after losing his daughter and his wife in the interim between Test for Echo and this, and he came back, and he wasn't even going to come back. I was reading a very good article on it, but he wanted to get back into it again, like take his mind off it, and that's what they came back with. But still,
And for that
still,
reason alone, it's an amazing album.
I mean, yeah, it's still a very good album. Though. You couldn't turn around and say that's a bad album by any stretch of the imagination.
No, because it's still better than than certain bands' best albums.
Well, I think, to be honest with you, now we'll get to it in a minute. There isn't even many newer, even the newer prog bands and all that. They wouldn't even come near any of those albums. They
Some of
wouldn't
them,
come near
yeah,
them. They wouldn't come near them.
yeah. Depending on the band, yeah. I see what
Yeah,
you're
they
saying.
wouldn't. Then yeah. So number 3.
Number 3 for me is okay. So this is an album you've already talked about, um, but it was such a stark change in their sound. I mean, they had done Power Windows, Hold Your Fire, Presto, and then they come out with this
Oh,
in
the bonus. Yeah.
1991. Yeah, and there's a lot of songs on here that I really really enjoy. I love Dreamline. Bravado's great. I love the title track. Of course, you had all that hip hop stuff going on at the time, and so they're kind of incorporating some of that into their music
Yeah,
without
that's
going.
what put me off it. Actually. Yeah, yeah. You can understand that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I have an affection for some hip hop, so I mean, hearing that, it was kind of like, okay, Alex Lifeson's rapping here a little bit. They're trying something new. It's not the coolest thing they've ever done, but A for effort. That's how I kind of see that. But Where's My Thing, the instrumental, I think is
Oh,
stellar.
that's excellent too. Yeah, I forgot about that when I was saying. Yeah, that's actually brilliant. Yeah.
And Heresy, the lyrics in that absolutely just blow me away. And it's about war and sort of getting over the past and looking forward to what's going on in your life. Next, like the lyric, do we have to say goodbye to the past? Yes, I guess we do. There's so many things you could apply that to in life. but it just the lyrics on this whole record, but that song in particular really struck me upon listening to it. And I've been a Rush fan for. I mean, I'm not as older as most of the older Rush fans would be. I'm only 26, so
Yeah,
I've
you're
been a
only a young
fan
fella, yeah.
I was, here in Canada, we get Rush on the radio. Like we get Tom Sawyer, Closer to the Heart, all
Yeah,
that
you would,
every
yeah,
day.
yeah.
And,
They never play that over here.
no, I know. And so I grew up knowing like the Rush hits, but then when I was 13, 14, 15, around there is when I started digging into their albums. And yeah, I've always had a bit of a liking for this record. I know it's not everyone's favorite, but it's of these, it's up higher for me.
So you give that what, an 8, maybe?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay, that's good, Cody. That's good.
that's about right. 8 feels good.
Right, I'm going to 1994 for my third album, Counterparts. And I remember again, I heard this album, and when I put it on, that's the LP of it. Yeah, I actually bought it originally on
On
both LP and this CD. And unfortunately, the LP has gone missing, gone somewhere, whatever it's gone.
You know how much money that would be worth now?
I know that. I know it's yeah, the original one. I bought it. Yeah, I know that.
Sorry.
But I know. But when I heard it, I thought the first side was just incredible. Like it was a real guitar orientated album. Like they were like gone back to total guitar. There's very few keyboards on this album.
Yeah.
Very little keyboards on this.
Yes.
You know, and I just think it's incredible. And I just get my glasses on now because I can't see the back there, Cody. 1 second. My favorite track on that is "Stick It Out."
Yeah, me too.
Like it's really heavy. It's one of when you think about it, Cody, it's one of Rush's heaviest tracks. Now, going back to the LP. So I played the first side and I thought it was incredible, start to finish, boom. But I was disappointed with the second side.
Yeah.
Because the first side was so good. The second side to me was a letdown.
It's very front heavy, isn't it?
Yeah, it's so front heavy.
Yeah.
Like you think, you know what I mean? It's just so front heavy. And I was just disappointed with Cody.
I feel
But I'd still give this album, I'd give it an 8 out of 10 because of the first side.
And that first side is so strong. I mean,
Yeah.
it's
No, it's boom, boom, boom. Like, can you imagine if the second side was as good as the first side?
Yeah.
It'd be a 10 out of 10 album, and that is no question.
The second side has cool moments and stuff like I'm looking at the CD here, so I'm trying to remember what's on the second side. If I could pull out the vinyl here.
Yeah, you can have a look at it there.
Okay, so the vinyl, this has 3 sides. So
That's not the original one then, yeah.
No, you can't even get that here. We saw a 2015 pressing in a record store here, and it was about $300. And so we were like, no.
No, I had the original one, and Kevin had the original one, but he sold it for a lot of money.
Yeah, you would.
My brother has the original one. I bet you it's mine.
I'm gonna look at Alien Shore, Leave That Thing Alone from the last half of the album. Not bad.
Yeah, not bad. No,
and immediately off the top, you get Animate, Stick It Out, Cut to the Chase, Nobody's Hero, Between Sun and Moon.
You know, they just killed it. They killed it on the first side of the LP and let it down. So that's why I'd give it an 8 out of 10.
I think Martin Popoff said the same thing about this album, is that it's very front heavy.
It is front heavy. There's no two ways about it. Yeah, there is some people out there who probably think the second side is better because we all hear music differently, as you very well know, Cody.
Absolutely. I love stuff that other people are like, really? I thought you liked this kind of music. Well, it's like, no, I love a lot of stuff. You know what I mean? Like it's just
yeah.
But yeah, exactly. So yeah, a front heavy album, not a bad album. Of course, it was also produced by Peter Collins. Production wise, very different than this.
Very different. Yeah, a lot. Well, the original LP, because it was a bit longer, it was a little bit. The bass was kind of lost on it.
Yeah.
The CD sounds much better. Much better.
And it would have been probably recorded digitally too, I think. So
Back in the day, of course, it would have been, yeah. More than likely. I'm not 100% sure of that, though.
the production on this is sort of light and sort of breathy in a sense, as to where this is sort of more heavy. It
Hard
feels
edge.
more
There's an edge to it.
more
Yeah,
dense,
yeah, I
more
agree with
dense
you.
in a complimentary way. Very influenced by the stuff like Soundgarden and Alice in Chains and stuff that was going on. You can tell in the production.
Yeah, of course you can. Yeah,
With the way the guitars are mixed and everything on it, and Rush would always find these ways to experiment with their sound. You know, they take what was going on in at the time in whatever decade of their career, and they would just go for it. And if it worked, it worked. And if it didn't, they're like, oh, okay, well, we'll just continue on.
exactly. Yeah,
And
exactly.
that's what makes Rush so admirable to so many people. And yeah, the first half of this album, banger. Yeah, 8 out of 10. That feels about right.
Yeah. So is that your number 2?
That's my number 2.
That was my number 3. That's the way we went on to that now.
I know it worked perfectly.
It worked perfectly. My number 2 is Snakes and Arrows.
Yeah, very good one.
As I said, I don't want to repeat myself. I saw the concert, the tour. When I heard Far Cry prior to the album being released, I remember I went on I heard it and I couldn't believe this sounds like Rush. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the Main Monkey Business is on it. And I think the only thing that would stop this album from being number 1, I thought it was a little bit too long.
It is a little
There's
bit.
a couple of tracks on it that they could have left off.
And that's the problem you face after a certain time, right?
Yeah. Because when you play this, I just think it goes on a little bit too much, you know what I mean? But I have to say, Spindrift, what a track. The way it even starts off, it's real haunting. It's a real proggy album, actually.
Very much.
But there's so many tracks on it. Like, as I said, if this was in an LP, if this was released in early 80s before CDs came in, I'd say they'd take off 3 or 4 tracks.
Yeah, near the end, right?
Yeah, you'd have a killer album. But still, in saying that, I'd still give that just above an 8 out of 10.
Just above an 8, so 8.5, maybe.
Yeah, 8.5. Yeah, because it is a little bit better than Counterparts. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
a little better. So, solid enough album. But I presume your number 1 is going to be my number 1.
I'm thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
My number 1 is. See, it's just, this was hard to do because I do really love a lot of these albums, but this one is one of Rush's best albums, and they went out with an absolute bang on this.
What a way to go out.
Clockwork Angels. And this is one I don't have a CD for. I've only got the original vinyl, of course, because it was 2012, so vinyl was back in at this point.
It was back in again, yeah, that's right, yeah. I didn't buy it. I didn't buy it on vinyl. I bought it on
the CD. Yeah. There's certain songs on this. I mean, I don't think I'd cut anything off this album.
No, I wouldn't cut anything off it. I think it can be a little bit long in many respects, but I wouldn't cut that now because they're all brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, it's going in that it's a long album, so it's like, okay, this is a lot of time here. But just looking at the track listing, even, it's just like I couldn't, in good faith, take anything off this.
No, I wouldn't take anything off it. No, because I remember, Cody, I saw Rush again in Dublin, the only time they ever came to Ireland, in 2011, and they played. It was the Moving Pictures kind of tour where they played the whole of Moving Pictures. And the reason why I wanted to go to that gig, I wanted to hear the Camera Eye live.
Yeah, Time Machine. Yeah. You know who else was there?
Oh,
a 12-year-old Tara O'Reilly.
She was at that gig as well.
She was at that gig.
Imagine, I was at that gig and I had a front row. There was a standing area down below in the place in Dublin, and I was right on the front, and I could just sit there with nobody in front of me. so I could
Wow,
watch them.
that's amazing.
And they played Caravan and BU2B in 2011 before this album was released, and they were saying it's going from the forthcoming album. I said, Christ, it's going to be some album.
And it was. And
It's
it
going to
was.
be some album. And I remember when I bought this album, Cody, and you'd probably agree with me, when I heard Headlong Flight, what a track.
The whole
For
thing.
2012, like, think about that, for 2012 to do a track like that. And that was supposed to be an instrumental originally.
Yeah.
And they put on lyrics on it. But what a track, though.
The whole thing. I mean, the title track also is brilliant. Headlong Flight is one of my main go-tos.
Oh,
Halo,
yeah, Clockwork Angels is brilliant.
Halo Effect is one of the most beautiful Rush songs ever.
But you know what track I love on it, and some people don't like it? I love Seven Cities of Gold.
Love it. Love it.
It's a beautiful track. I think this album, and it's the fact that it's our number one, we can both talk about it. I would give this album a 9 out of 10.
Yeah, I would too. I think the money shot on this record for a lot of people, though, like fans that I know and people who love this record, is The Garden. The Garden.
Yeah,
at
brilliant.
the end of the record. But
there's no bad track on this album. Like, there's no weak track.
No wasted second.
No, not like some of the other albums you say it could be too long. You can say you could take off 2 or 3, maybe 4 tracks, and you wouldn't bother you. But if you take anything out of this album, it would bring the album down.
Yeah,
and
I agree.
I just think it's since say you were to rank albums in progressive rock. I know some people say, "Oh, that's not." You know, you go on, people say, "Oh, that's not really progressive rock." I said, "Well, what is it then?" It is progressive. It is progressive rock.
Music that progresses beyond a certain statute of limitation is progressive.
Progressive rock, yeah. But if you were to take all the progressive rock albums that came out from 2000 up to the present day, 25, that would be in the top 10.
Yeah, it would be. It would be up there with.
It'd actually be my top. Be my top 5.
It is pretty brilliant. I mean, there's a lot of great bands I've been discovering, especially since hanging out in the Prog corner. I've been discovering a lot of new stuff.
Oh yeah,
enjoy. But this, it really, really is. If you were to do like a top 10 of say the last 25 years, this is one of them. Another one that's up there for me, not Rush related, Transatlantic, the Simpty album.
Okay, that's a good album. Yeah, it is a good album.
Love that record. Oh,
but this album is. But you see, I find the album, and it's brilliant the way they went out. They were never tempted. Obviously, Neil Peart died, which was unfortunate, and obviously now I know there's been rumors going around that they'll never get back. That's it. Rush are finished.
They are. They bowed out gracefully.
Out of respect to that man, they bowed, because I think his voice live was gone anyway. You get me? It was going. He couldn't reach those high notes anymore. He just couldn't do it.
Yeah,
he couldn't. He could do it. No problem no problem in the studio, right? Doing this, because obviously these songs would have been written for his voice.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the music would have been done. But trying to sing like Xanadu or some of the earlier songs, it was difficult, because at the end of the day, he wasn't a brilliant singer to start off with. Like, he's no Robert Plant or Ian Gillan or anything like that. But his singing mellowed over the years, and it suited the music.
Right.
That's what I think.
That started in the 80s too. I mean, I know people who sort of come on to Rush and they say, "Oh, I don't like the high vocals." Well, he stopped doing that after 1981.
He did, actually. If you listen to him on, I think some of his best vocals are on Signals.
Yeah, and it's a great album too. We should rank the 80s albums.
That's my favorite Rush album, believe it or not. People say to me, "How could that be your favorite Rush album? And you're into prog, and that's not prog." I said, "It is prog."
Oh, it is. Totally and completely.
How is that not Prog?
I think Rush was always Prog. I
Prog, the
think,
Analog Kid, like
yeah, Subdivisions. They have a hit
Subdivisions.
single in what, 7 or 6? I can't. Bah, bah, bah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's in
yeah,
7. Yeah, it's in 7, and that's on the radio here all the time.
yeah. But yeah,
That's Prog.
the 80s albums would be interesting because a lot of people have done the 70s stuff. But if I was to rate this album, say against just here we're talking now, against the 80s albums, right? Bar obviously Permanent Waves, Moving Pictures and Signals, right?
Right.
That album is better than the rest of them.
What about Power Windows?
That's better than Power Windows.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
it
tell you
is.
why it's better. It's more. There's more balls in that album than Power Windows because they went off into that keyboardy, and I think they got drenched in keyboards. Now
Yeah,
I know some people say Signals was drenched in keyboards, but it was done brilliantly because they had Oberheim keyboards that don't. The sound doesn't age. You get me?
yeah.
German keyboard maker, and the sound is fantastic. But then they went on to the more, that synthy 80s pop that,
Yeah.
and that synth does age.
Yeah, it kind of, and with the sort of, I know Hugh Padgham didn't produce it, but sometimes with that style of production, kind of like, okay, this is definitely an 80s album. It's still good, but you listen to, say, something like Phil Collins, No Jacket Required.
Yeah,
Great album, one of my favorites, but it's from the 80s, right?
from the 80s. But anyway, that's both our number ones.
Yeah. Well, that's because we're men of taste.
Yeah. I had a funny, I didn't know what you were going to do and you didn't know, but I had a funny feeling.
That this was going to rank
Because
high.
if you're a big Rush fan like you are and me, like we know Rush. We're
Yeah.
not, they're not a passing fad with us, Rush.
I've
You know
been
what
a
I mean?
massive Rush fan for over the last 10 years.
Yeah.
So,
And I've been listening to Rush since the first album I heard from would have been first album Hemispheres. I heard it in 19 Hemispheres. I heard it in 1979.
wow. Okay, so yeah,
Yeah.
you're a long hauler.
Oh, I'm a long hauler. I listened to it all my life, Rush, and I was waiting then for all the albums to come out, like Permanent Waves, Moving Pictures, so forth.
So I have to ask you, as a fan who was around in the 80s, what was it like for you hearing Moving Pictures for the first time?
Oh my god!
Yeah,
Especially when I heard the Camera Eye, because that's one of my favorite Rush tracks. When I heard the Camera Eye, the way it gradually builds up and the way he sustains that note on the guitar, just unbelievable. And I got to see him play that live,
I know.
and he could do it just like that, just like that. But the song actually, believe it or not, when I heard La Villa off of Hemispheres, that's the first album I heard. I
Yeah,
couldn't. Now the rest of the album is brilliant, and I had it on cassette. There's one for you.
on the tape. Yeah,
Yeah, cassette. I couldn't get over it. All the time signature changes, everything. Everything. Had everything you'd want in Prog. Everything. It's
it's all
all
right there.
encapsulated. It's all encapsulated in that one track.
Yeah, it is. And
Everything.
like I was just telling you before we went on, I'm going to tell the viewers, I went to see Metallica last night. And of course, it was in Toronto at the Rogers Center. And Kirk Hammett and Rob Trujillo had been hanging out with Alex Lifeson a few days previous. And
Yeah,
so he played La Via Strangiato as a little homage to him. That was fun. That was fun to see.
that was brilliant. I know you were telling me that earlier on. Brilliant. Anyway, Cody, it was brilliant having you on.
And yeah, thanks for having me here, man.
I love,
Appreciate it.
Yeah, really nice to have you on. And as my good friend Glenn, Glenn Kellaway there in Ontario, always says, Glenn, he has Glenn Kellaway, he has his own channel, Glenn Kellaway in the Basement.
Okay, I'm gonna I got some
check out
homework.
his channel. No, he's not living too far from where you are. And he's actually been on my channel. But he always says, and it's a good idea, if you like this video, please subscribe. But hit that little down here. If you haven't subscribed, it's in white. So all
Hit
it
the
takes
bell.
is, and hit the bell and hit the like button. All it takes is 1 second, because I do appreciate all my viewers, subscribers, all with the comments, because it keeps us going. And Cody will know exactly what I'm talking about,
Yeah.
because the more viewers we get, the more subscribers, the more videos we can do, because we know people are at least watching us.
Yeah, and so long as people are digging the fun, that's what it's about, right?
That's what it's all about. And I'm really happy that Cody came on my channel, because I was looking forward to this. We had a plan for a while, and we've finally made it happen.
Yes.
And
Thanks for having me.
no, great having you, Cody, especially a Rush fanatic like yourself. Really good to have you. And just before I go, I just want to say to everyone, I hope you enjoyed the video. And it's nice to be nice. Always nice to be nice. And whatever you're doing, stay safe. And for me, Pat, and Cody, until my next video here on Close to the Edge, bye-bye. Bye.